Before the massacre, Yellow Creek was a peaceful and a very attractive tributary of the Ohio River with its location on the bank, which is about 40 miles above present-day Wheeling, West Virginia. It was northwest of Fort Pitt in present-day Pittsburgh, but the exact location of the massacre of Yellow Creek is still in current debate. Many scholars have developed their own hypotheses and contentions about just exactly where the exact spot was, but it still remains uncertain. A frontiersman by the name of Joshua Baker lived around here, and he operated a tavern where both Indians and white settlers mingled. However, violence and the dark shades of attacking were wreaking havoc in this area. I mean, on one occasion there was a Mingo woman that came to him and revealed that her and her family would be murdered if they continued to stay here. But Baker spent out word that he was in dire need of help and protection. A man who responded was by a gentleman and frontiersman by the name of Daniel Greathouse. If you don't know who Daniel Greathouse is, stay tuned for a future post on the beavercountyindians.com website, and I will tell you more about that man. He gathered a band of about 21 men, and he came to Baker's house, and this occurred on April 30th, 1774. As Mingo Indians gathered inside Baker's cabin, Shawnee Indians were called because they were under the impression that, trade talks were to be conveyed. That wasn't the case. What was the case was they were going to be massacred, and that's precisely what happened. Greathouse ordered his men to kill all the Mingos, save an infant. He even killed a woman who was with a child. They went in so far as to remove the baby from her womb and scalp the unborn infant. It is not an exaggeration. It is written in the annals of chronicles that we have preserved. Chief Logan's younger brother was also killed in the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, as I have presented to you in this series, and as I do on my beavercountyindians.com website, Beaver County here, with all its walls here and great railroads, is soaked in blood. It is soaked in blood by the indigenous peoples. It is soaked in blood by the earliest white settlers that we had in this region, and it continues that way, as it will forever. You must pay attention to the history. You must be respectful of the preservation for those of us who try to do it to the best of our knowledge and skills. And I have taken it upon myself to do this in remembrance and in preservation of our history, good or bad, unbiased. Now, upon hearing of these butcheries, Logan swore vengeance on all the white settlers of the Ohio Valley. He was true to his word. After that Yellow Creek massacre, Logan and a lot of his Indians, they began terrorizing and killing white settlers in what's now Beaver County, Butler County, and around Yellow Creek, which is near present-day Mountaineer Casino and Resort in West Virginia. Again, the exact location of the massacre remains unknown. Beaver County witnessed some of the most brutal killings by Indians up to that time, here in this valley, here what you're looking at now. Chief Logan sank into alcoholism, and he continued his vengeance on white settlers in our region, and he died in a skirmish near Lake Erie in 1790. But let's back up a little bit. So sometime during 1774, during a trading expedition with Shawnee, there was a group of Mingos who stumbled upon the acquaintance of a man named Joshua Baker. Here, the Mingos were lured into a cabin for a drink of rum. This is a little bit more detailed of what I just opined. What is significant about this ambush is the one who was involved, which was an Iroquois chief by the name of Logan. He had family members who were fighting in the skirmish. But the beginnings of this tragedy must be procured to the reader first. So in 1774, the Ohio Valley region was replete with violence and bloodshed. I can't emphasize that enough. I have emphasized it in my essays. I hope I am doing so here in my filming of various historical markers and Indian sites that I present to you in this series. And hopefully that you will contain that information in a manner in which is fitting for you. The friendly relations between Indians and white settlers was essentially vaporized by this point. But along the Ohio River, there were two men whose names are worthy of mention that were highly involved in its development and unfolding. A man by the name of George Rogers Clark, he was a military officer, and a man by the name of Michael Cresap, who was a frontiersman who possessed enormous disdain for Indians. Enormous disdain. The two met on their way into the what was known as the Kentucky frontier. They were both acquainted with rumors of a major war taking place in the Ohio regions. They both formed parties to hunt out and kill Native Americans everywhere they could locate them. Upon hearing what was going on in this territory here, which you see before you, they wanted a piece of the action. And they certainly got it. They both formed parties to hunt and kill Native Americans everywhere they could locate them. They consequently, numerous attacks unfolded on all the tribes that were here in this region, all of them. None was spared. Further cementing their hatred of white settlers, the Indians took it among themselves to conduct raids on every white settling village that they came into contact with. Eventually, this would brew into many land battles, skirmishes, and very famous battlegrounds that are now preserved in this area. This area, Allegheny County, Butler County, I'm not just talking Beaver County, even though this is where I'm filming this location. Trust on either side was nowhere to be found, obviously. The zenith of this hatred arrived here and near this spot, well, not near this spot, but on April 28th, 1774, near Yellow Creek, when they attacked the Mingo camp. Now, there are different accounts of what happened. There are different accounts of the details of the massacre, but one thing remains clear, that it was violent and it was bloody, and it produced hatred in unprecedented amounts on both sides. Nobody was spared the horrors of what happened here near Chief Logan's town, near the Yellow Creek in West Virginia, all through the Ohio Valley frontier, all the way there, up into Pittsburgh, up into Fort Pitt, Fort Duquesne. These ravage attacks continued. Plunder, acquiescence of land, hunting, game, fishing. White settlers also needed meat to survive. So there was competitions among the Indians, fierce competitions among the Indians with hunting. Game was getting scarce. Indians were moving. Indians were forced to move. White settlers were in some cases forced to move because of the violent attacks against the Indians and the limited supply of food. The Indians used a hunger tactic, if you will, a starvation plan in order to attempt to starve the white settlers, forcing them to relocate. In many cases, they were successful with that. In many cases, they were not. It's important to recognize that what happened and what unfolded here continued to go on and build up into the culmination which eventually became the French and Indian War, consequently the War for Independence, which some Indian tribes did fight in the War for Independence, but not for American independence. So what I'm gathering here for you is the diversity that was so prevalent among both sides. There were many reasons, there were many purposes that this land held for both people. It was inevitable that they had to fight their way to stay or fight their way to move. You know, it was a balancing act. It certainly was. So this prompted Logan to become known for what he was in some regards. Many historians today regard Chief Logan as a hero. Many of them among indigenous people still alive today would consider him a hero for the preservation of his people, for the protection of his people, for wreaking vengeance on white settlers, for stealing his land and killing his families. Some other historians regard him as a butcher or a terrorist, like Shingas. They would consider Logan a murderer, a thief. He did succumb to alcoholism and he died in obscurity in some cases among those who continued to discuss the final fate of Chief Logan. I would end this video right now and show you the plaque here that has been brought down here courtesy of the Beaver County Historical Research and Landmarks Foundation. It reads as follows: Chief Logan, where's his Indian name? Tayoketa, a Cayuga Indian, also known as Chief Logan, lived here in 1772. Where exactly he lived here is not known, but it's there. Logan's sister Kune married trader John Gibson here. Logan's family was massacred by renegade whites at the Yellow Creek in 1774. He then wreaked terrible vengeance on white settlers in the Ohio Valley. There you have it. Now, I know I had done this in a previous video, but I do believe that I'm going to walk down here and face the very waters, the confluence of the Beaver River, or the ending of the Beaver River. This is the end of the Beaver River, into the Ohio. This was a sacred spot for Native Americans. It was also the waterway to their villages, fishing expeditions, trade routes and such, even with white settlers. But I'm going to read something that has now become famous. Even Thomas Jefferson had it preserved in his writings. He was familiar with Chief Logan. He was familiar with what happened to him. Logan was a famous, very famous person even in his own time, but probably not famous for the reasons that he would certainly want to be famous for. If you want more information about Chief Logan, I wrote an extensive article about him on my website, beavercountyyindians.com. I will leave a link below this video for your reference and review. But I want to read something. It is once again Chief Logan's lament. And we're going to show both rivers right here, and I shall read. I appeal to any white man to say, if ever he entered Logan's cabin hungry, and he gave him not meat, if ever he came cold and naked, and he clothed him not. During the course of that last long and bloody war, Logan remained idle in his cabin, an advocate for peace. Such was my love for the whites, that my countrymen pointed as they passed, and said, Logan is the friend of white men. I had even thought to have lived with you, but for the injuries of one man, Colonel Cresap, the last spring in cold blood and unprovoked, murdered all the relations of Logan, not sparing even my women and children. There runs not a drop of my blood in the veins of any living creature. This called on me for revenge. I have sought it. I have killed many. I have fully glutted my vengeance. For my country, I rejoice at the beams of peace, but do not harbor a thought that mine is the joy of fear. Logan never felt fear. He will not turn on his heel to save his life. Who is there to mourn for Logan? Not one. Enjoy your Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe and comment below if you wish.